Welcome to BBC London, where tonight we bring you a special programme marking the 20th anniversary of the London bombings. We'll hear from those who lost loved ones and survivors still carrying the physical and emotional scars, plus the courage and compassion of strangers and the heroism of our emergency services. We'll also reflect on the resilience of our city since 7/7. It was a day that changed the capital forever. Many of us will remember where we were when we heard the news on the 7th of July 2005 of 4 suicide bombs on our transport network during the morning rush hour. 3 on London Underground trains and 1 a double-decker bus, all killing 52 people and injuring more than 700. This is how and when it happened. At 8:50, the first bomb explodes on a Circle Line train between Liverpool Street and Aldgate Station. At the same time, a second device goes off, also a Circle Line train at Edgware Road. Then a third bomb explodes on a packed Piccadilly Line train heading to Russell Square. An hour later, at 9:47, the fourth explosion happens on the number 30 bus in Tavistock Square in Bloomsbury. That day, 52 people lost their lives in the London bombings, the youngest just 20 years old. They were all remembered today at commemorations here in the capital, marking the 20th anniversary, as our political editor, Carl Mercer, reports.
For half an hour, the bells at St Paul's rang out, defiant, as Londoners came to remember. For a minute, earlier this morning, at the time of the attacks, silences at Russell Square, at Edgware Road, at Aldgate, at King's Cross, and at Tavistock Square. And for 3 minutes at midday, 2 London women read the names of the 52 who were killed.
Aldgate, Lee Braisden.
Thelma Stober was injured on the tube at Aldgate. Then Saba Edwards, who lost her mum, whose name she read out at today's memorial.
Behnaz Mazaka. Michaela Otto.
For those who lost loved ones and for survivors, a day to remember together.
I think once you get past that 20 years, it is the last milestone. And it is important to be together. And it is important to just have words that don't need to be spoken and people that understand that you are standing with and that you can hold and that we just know. So it's the deep knowing without me having to explain to anyone.
This morning, in silence, the Mayor was at the 7/7 Memorial in Hyde Park, laying a wreath with the Prime Minister.
That day shook our city. We're here today, 20 years on, commemorating that day, remembering 52 people's lives were cut cruelly short on that day, but also we saw that day remarkable acts of bravery and kindness.
It brings to life the complete ghastliness of what they were faced with and how people behaved extraordinarily, how they were committed to helping others, even committed to the dignity of those who died. It's quite overwhelming what they took on, and you see people talking about today, you meet people today who are involved with it, and you can see they're carrying a heavy burden for what they did that day, and we should remember that as well.
Many of those at St Paul's today will remember, as will the thousands of others whose lives were changed by 7/7, represented by the 52,000 white petals that drifted down from its dome today. Carl Mercer, BBC London.
We saw Thelma Stober there, one of the survivors attending the service at St Paul's Cathedral, a solicitor working on the Olympic bid who was on the Aldgate train unknowingly standing next to one of the suicide bombers. She suffered life-changing injuries. Over the last 2 decades, Thelma has worked with the Home Office and the United Nations to help shape policy around support for victims. I recently joined her in Hyde Park as she shared her memories and reflected on this anniversary. How does it feel to be here?
I always think of the 52 people who lost their lives, because although I lost parts of my body, I am still here alive to tell the story and to talk to you. In a sense, for me, is bringing the 52, the representation of the 52 alive, and being part of remembering them.
I remember you saying that if someone asked you what you did last week, you'd have to really think about it.
And that's absolutely true. That's
But
true.
that July day, you remember every moment.
Absolutely every moment of it. The day before, London had found out that we'd won the bid to stage the Olympics and Paralympic Games in London. And it was a momentous day, incredible, happy day. And I decided I was going to go to work, contrary to my original plan, because there was a lot of work to be done.
So everything was different for you that day?
Absolutely. I was on the wrong train, the wrong time. So I was completely unaware of, a man carrying a rucksack. I was actually standing next to the bomber.
At what point did you realise how badly hurt you were?
When I woke up, I found myself on the train tracks, partly underneath the train and partly out. And a piece of the door was stuck to my right thigh. When I looked down, I realized that my left foot was twisted backwards. I was putting my hand up because I could see men with the yellow and orange jackets coming from the tunnel. And I kept shouting, "Help me, help me. I'm alive, I don't want to die." And what I was thinking of was my son, my mother, my husband. And I worked so hard on the Olympics. I wanted to get back to continue my work on the Olympics.
And you remember that so vividly.
So vividly. I could visualize it now.
Do you sometimes wish you don't remember every moment so well?
Well, I say that if I could have amnesia permanently to eliminate everything about the incidents, I would.
Do you feel comfortable telling me about what your injuries were?
I suffered significant external and internal injuries. I lost my lower limb, left limb. I almost lost my upper right. So I had injury to my liver, I had injuries to my stomach, and I lost I lost my left hearing completely and a percentage of my right. For years, I suffered from headaches and told it was migraine. And in 2019, I was told that I had shrapnels in my brain.
All that time?
Yes. And I have high definition scan every year because they have to monitor it.
You are carrying these living memories and some ongoing injuries. Where do you get your strength from?
I have often reflected on that. I was defiant in a sense. The whole idea of the attack was an attack on society and communities and destroying individuals. And I wasn't going to let that happen.
Does this anniversary feel different?
There's anxiety, there's sadness, and in a sense, I'm reflecting on my life before 7/7 and my life after. It's not something that I would have wished on anyone. But looking back now, I have been involved with so many positive things that I would not have been involved in if it wasn't 7/7. So it's really a mixed feeling thinking back 20 years ago. There's the sadness, but on the other hand, I am glad I'm alive to do what I do.
Thelma, thank you so much. Yes, our thanks to Thelma Stober for sharing her story. I appreciate anniversaries like this can be emotional and triggering. So if you or someone you know would like advice or support, the BBC has pulled together a list of organisations that can help. You can see on the screen there. Just search BBC Action Line. Now, we do know that the London bombings challenged our city to its very core, not least policing and the security services. The Met Chief, Sir Mark Rowley, says the counter-terrorism response is now far stronger and far more effective since the attacks. Let's get more from our Home Affairs correspondent, Sonia Jessup. Hi, Sonia.
Thanks, Riz. Yes, the 7/7 bombings have been described as a wake-up call to police and security services. London had not seen this type of attack before. So what changes have there been in the last 20 years? And is the capital any safer today? The 7/7 attacks shook London, and to police represented a new and horrifying threat. Homegrown suicide bombers coordinated strikes on the capital's transport network.
Everyone had been concerned about a threat like this, but no one had ever really seen it coming or anticipated it in quite the way that it happened. And so that level of response was, led to significant changes in how the UK responded to terrorism.
Today, there are more visible barriers around our city. Bollards and structures protect against attacks, and there were significant changes to policing.
The first was the changes that brought policing and our security services, particularly MI5, much more close together so that we now have the closest joint operating arrangements anywhere in the world. And secondly, counter-terrorism work became something that wasn't just about what was based in London, and a network was built with bases in all of the regions across the country.
Over the years, the type of threat has also changed.
We'd seen very sophisticated, large groups coming together to create quite challenging and complex terrorist attacks. Whereas what we began to see around the time of the Rigby murder and subsequently, we began to see low sophistication attacks, the attacks of 2017 involving knives and vehicles.
The number of young people being arrested for terrorism has also grown. The Met says 43 terror plots have been disrupted since 2018.
Quite a few of those terrorist attacks have been disrupted thanks only to a call from members of the public. Last year was one of the highest years for arrests under the Terrorism Act as well. So, we are having to ensure that we've got the resources and the operating systems to respond to the threat when it appears in front of us.
He says the main threat to London is still Islamist extremism, but there's growing concern over the risk from the far right and people with no ideology at all.
Can I ask what keeps you awake at night?
Actually, the truth of it is I sleep quite well. What I am concerned most about is violence-fixated individuals who don't have a clear ideology, sometimes don't then come to our notice because of that. If there was one thing I think that I reflect on more than any, it's how do we make sure that we try and prevent those individuals that are vulnerable to that violence online, seeing that material and allowing it to motivate them.
Much has changed since 7/7. For many, the world feels increasingly unstable. What message does the Met's counter-terror commander have for them?
I think London is still one of the safest cities to live in. That does, of course, mean we need to remain extra vigilant, but I genuinely feel we're better equipped today than we've ever been, certainly not in the 20 years that I've been involved in counter-terrorism.
Commander Murphy there. Sonia is still with me. Worth mentioning there that whilst there was an incredible spirit of unity on the 7th of July, the days that followed were tough and challenging for Londoners.
Yeah, important to remember that just 2 weeks later there was another attempted attack on the capital, again on the transport network. Of course, that plot was foiled, but it led to a huge manhunt and to police shooting dead an innocent man, Jean-Charles de Menezes, who they mistook for a suicide bomber. And yeah, there was incredible bravery, incredible stoicism from Londoners, but it was also a time of huge anxiety, of suspicion, and a particularly frightening time for London's Muslim communities, and some of those tensions still being felt today. Of course, we've heard those calls again today, haven't we? We've heard them after subsequent attacks on the capital, for Londoners to stand together and to not be divided.
And what do you make of the Met's counter-terror chief that we heard there, Commander Murphy, saying the biggest concern is those individuals fixated on online violence?
Yeah, I mean, those kind of attacks, those kind of offences are difficult to spot and difficult to spot. There's particular concern about children. Children as young as 12, he said, being flagged as a potential terror threat. Now, the watchdog, the independent reviewer of terrorism legislation, Jonathan Hall, KC, said today there's a particular concern over smartphones, children's access to them. He said that society is grasping at straws over how to tackle that issue. Commander Murphy pointed to the work of the prevention scheme, which aims to identify and to divert vulnerable individuals. Now, of course, that scheme has its critics, both over how effective it is and who it's targeted at. Commander Murphy said they still really need the help of the public today to stay vigilant and to report any concerns.
OK, Sonia, for now, thank you. Some insights there from our Home Affairs correspondent, Sonia Jessup. You can find more in-depth coverage and further analysis on the BBC News website or by using the BBC News app. Now, my next guests have both been at today's commemoration services at St Paul's and the Memorial in Hyde Park. Esther Hyman's sister Miriam was killed on the bus in Tavistock Square, and the family has set up a memorial trust in her memory. Also joining us is Paul Dadge, who was on his way to work at the time and helped people outside Edgware Road Tube Station. A picture of him helping a survivor who was wearing a burns mask became one of the defining images of that day. Thank you both very much for being here today. I know that you have attended commemorative events already and you've come straight from Hyde Park. Can I ask, start with you, Miriam, how has today been for you?
It's been a very moving day. A day that, considering how much I wasn't looking forward to it, has passed so beautifully because of all the people involved, not only people affected by 7/7, but the dignitaries who attended. We really appreciate that they came and showed their support.
Paul, I can see you nodding there. How was today for you?
I consider Esther almost as an extended family because we were like a community, aren't we? So the people involved in the attacks, whether it be survivors or people like me that were just passing by, or families, we are like an extended community. So it's an opportunity to meet each other and catch up. So, but it is good to see these dignitaries there as well. Prince William spent loads of time, literally half an hour ago, with people there. And I think people were telling him he needed to go, but he wasn't interested and he wanted to stay and chat. And I think that's really, really important, and he's spot on.
And you talk about the community, and I can see you both know each other. And Paul, that powerful image of you helping Davina outside the station symbolised stories of courage and kindness that day. I gather you two still keep in touch.
Yeah, we're friends as well. We keep in touch, and I keep in touch with lots of people who were involved in 7/7. It's just that we were kind of captured in that image, and you know, a lot's made of that. Yeah. It's very hard when you're in an iconic image like that to relate to it.
How does it feel seeing it?
I've always said that I'd do whatever I can to help anybody, whether it's somebody who's got a flat tire or something like this. But I felt somewhat compromised in that moment when that picture was taken. I knew that picture had been taken because we were running towards the cameras. And I guess for the last 20 years, I've made the best that I can of that in terms of lobbying Parliament around press regulation, or whether it's been around terrorism. That's become a defining part of my life, really.
And Esther, through the trust that you set up in Miriam's name, you help schools teach about 7/7 and sensitive issues around extremism.
At the 10th anniversary, the Miriam Hyman Memorial Trust launched Miriam's Vision, which is a set of teaching resources for teachers of 11 to 14-year-olds. Now, we just heard that young people as young as 12 are being recruited, and so really what we want to do is work through education to prevent another event like 7/7 happening again. And at the moment we are lobbying for the government to include social cohesion in the forthcoming revised national curriculum to benefit all of us, so that young people who go through the education system would have the tools of discernment to understand that they're being manipulated when they're being radicalised.
This is Miriam's legacy. Tell us a little bit about her. What was she like?
You can see, even from a photo of Miriam, that she was a warm, loving, caring, generous person. The world is poorer for not having her in it. But we hope that the work that we've done in her memory has been fitting and appropriate for such a wonderful person.
I can see how emotional it is for you, and we really do appreciate you sharing that with us. Paul, as a former firefighter, did some of that training kick in that day? Because there were many people that went to help. I know you don't see yourself as a hero, but many people do see anyone who stopped, a passerby to help as
Absolutely
heroes.
No training I ever received as a firefighter had any play on 7/7. For me, it was just common sense at a very early stage of an incident where there wasn't anybody there to help, that actually I could probably help, and that was just really to say to a group of people, if you've been involved in this incident, go into Marks and Spencer's and await further instructions, and don't leave until you've spoken to a police officer. And actually, everybody did. Everybody moved. And I've been asked that question so many times, and it's, they jumped to it was the fire service. But no, it wasn't really. I believe that we've got people who will run towards, people who will want to run towards but don't have the experience, those who want to run away. But in this day and age now, we have a fourth category, which is those that will just film, and I worry about that for the future.
To you both, thank you so much for being here. I know it's a significant day for you both, so thank you so much, Esther and Paul. Appreciate it. Well, one man who witnessed the horror of the bombings firsthand was the driver of the number 30 bus, where an explosion ripped through the double-decker, killing 13 people. George Saradakis was physically unhurt, but carries the burden of what he saw. He says he reflects on the humanity of that day, as we've just heard my guest saying, and wants Londoners to do the same thing, as his message is one of love, not hate. He's been speaking to our transport correspondent, Tom Edwards.
20 years on, and George Saradakis still remembers how joyful everyone was on his bus on the morning of July the 7th.
And also I was very happy because London had won the Olympics to host the Olympic Games in 2012, if I remember correctly, yes? And I was very happy. And not only me, even the passengers on my bus, I could hear them, talk happily and talking about the Olympics and all that, yes. But after that, very sad. It became a macabre day, a gruesome day, I don't know how. Yeah.
13 people died and more than 100 were injured in Tavistock Square. George wasn't injured, but it has taken its toll.
People, often ask me, George, you were driving the number 30 and this and the other. That comes into my mind. But me, every day, I pray for their souls on my prayer, every day. Yes.
This morning at Tavistock Square, he met the Prime Minister. He returned from Cyprus, where he's now retired, to take part in the commemoration service.
We mustn't use, hatred and everything to do this, like these bombings, or we mustn't do that. Because what the terrorists have achieved. So, instead of hating one another, to love one another. During the bombing, when I was trying to help, I saw, it was inhuman, inhumanity, lots of inhumanity, but at the same time, lots of humanity, altruism, whoever was there and it wasn't hurt, run, you know, here and there to help one another. You know? So yes, this is what I have to say.
Poignant words from George, who was the driver of the number 30 bus. And there have been many messages today around unity and the spirit of London. Let's pause and turn to the weather now. It's over to Kate, who's got the forecast. And Kate, warmer weather on the way, I gather.
Yes, by the end of the week, it looks like we might be in heatwave conditions once again. For today, it did feel a little fresh. We started off with some of this, a little bit of rain overnight and through the first part of the morning, but it cleared away and we got some play at Wimbledon. You can see the cloud breaking, some blue sky. Now, as we head into the evening, we've got some late sunshine, but also you'll notice some showers just scooting their way south and eastwards. Could be quite heavy for a time, but they'll clear through the early hours of the morning, leading to a bright start to Tuesday. Minimum temperature somewhere between 10 and 13 Celsius. Now, as we head into Tuesday, lots of sunshine around first thing. High pressure just starts to build through tomorrow. We will see a bit of cloud, especially out towards the east, the Thames estuary out towards the coast of Essex, but elsewhere some sunshine and temperatures just starting to get a little bit warmer. Maximum tomorrow getting up to around 24 or 25 Celsius. We still have that northeasterly breeze. Now, as we head overnight Tuesday into Wednesday, the high pressure, which is just here behind me, is starting to nudge in. So the ridge extends across us. It beats away everything that tries to get towards us, and we have some sunshine. So this is Wednesday. Plenty of sunshine, just a little bit of cloud bubbling up through the afternoon potentially, but those temperatures starting to get a bit warmer. Now, we're looking at 26 widely, but locally we could just get 27 or 28, which starts us off with those heat wave conditions. Remember, 28 Celsius for 3 consecutive days. So the high pressure overnight Wednesday into Thursday continues to move towards us, dragging in this warm and humid air. So actually, as we head through Thursday, those temperatures are getting warmer. We're looking at 30, potentially 31 Celsius, not only for Thursday, but as we head into Friday and into Saturday and also into Sunday. So the weekend is looking very warm. We haven't got any rain in the forecast, lots of sunshine, and that's looking likely to continue as we head into at least the first part of next week, at least until Wednesday. Riz.
OK, thanks very much, Kate. And that is where we leave you on this, the 20th anniversary of the 7/7 bombings, a day that changed our city forever. Today, the capital came together to remember the lives lost, the lives changed, and the bravery of so many. Thanks so much for being with us on a poignant day for London. From me and the team, take care. Bye-bye.